Ooh. Sure it's up.
Not yet on my end.
Okay.
Oh, now it's up.
Okay. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the live show for The Secret by Julie Garwood. I have my physical copy with. It's the shiny one. So pretty. I just want to read all the Julie Garwood. Like, I just do. She's a happy, warm, cozy place for me at this point, and I'm excited to read more of her books. Yeah, we'll give some people a little bit of time. Maybe we'll just say hi and everything. How's everyone's Sunday going so far?
It's good.
Chill.
Yeah.
Chill, yeah.
Lynn, it's nighttime, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't know how Lynn's awake.
Yeah, you've had more on Sunday than we have.
No, I'm not. It's not that late for me. It's 8 o'clock for me, but I've been working all day, and when I finish this, I'm going back to working. So.
Oh. Well, that's no fun.
No, basically. That's why I was like, no.
Oh, that's a bummer. Mine was good. I was saying I was a little flustered because we always go out to eat after church on Sunday. So I always try to pick a place so that we'll be like done early so that I can get to this and have enough time. But then I stopped at Barnes & Noble and I did a mini haul because I don't feel bad because I'm selling a bunch of my books and I have space on my shelf for the first time in years. And I was like, I gotta fill those holes in my shelf. I gotta do it. So I bought myself.
Well, I gotta.
I mean, you have to. I get it.
Yeah, I've been hearing such good stuff about this book, and so I grabbed it.
I have too. Oh. I have the arc. I've got to read it still. I'm still behind.
Yeah. Hey, Shay. So happy you're here. Have you read this one, Shay? I don't know if you read The Secret. I can't remember. So, secrets, everyone. After the read-along live show on Tuesday, Shay stayed on with me for another hour and a half, and we talked about all the paranormal books that we like. And we just
I'm sad I missed that.
Yeah, it was pretty fun. We were just she just didn't leave, and I was like, I want to talk with you, so we did that. But
that's fine.
Well, we'll go ahead and everyone introduce themselves just in case someone doesn't know who y'all are at this point. And then we'll get into kind of a synopsis. And one thing up front, if anyone just found this, this is going to be full spoiler. I don't know how you can do book discussion without it, but we're going to talk about all the things. We're going to talk about what the secret is. So if you don't want to know the secret, come back after you know. So there's that. But let's go. Oops. How do I point? The angle. Oh, this way. Yes.
Clockwise.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody. I'm Lynn. I don't have a YouTube channel. I just read a lot of romance, and I'm quite happy to talk a lot.
We're trying to get you to start your channel, though.
You what? Sorry.
We're trying to get you to start your channel, though, because
I have actually filmed a newbie tag, but I haven't edited. And I haven't got time at the moment, basically. Once next week's over, I'll have more time. But
just start at the start of October.
Yeah.
Right. Or get a bunch of stuff refilmed. All right, we'll go. See, now I got it. We're like the Brady Bunch. Okay. Now I'm pointing at you.
Hi, I'm Laura from Laura's Library Card, and I am sort of new somewhat to historical romance. I've probably read less than a dozen, but I'm excited to be here.
Oh, we're happy to have you. I love that. I love when people
you've read more than me, Laura.
There you go. Almost.
Sorry.
No, wait, it's this way. None of us are trash.
I'm sorry.
It's a good thing we're not the Brady Bunch because we'd all be just opposite directions
everywhere. Yeah. Oh. Okay. Sorry.
It's fine. Hey, everybody, I'm Izzy. I'm from Happy for Now. This is one of my, I don't know how many historical romances I've read. I've read a lot. Not as much as Jenn, probably, but a lot. No. A lot. I don't read as much as Jenn. Almost.
This is only my second. So wow.
Really?
Yeah. Right?
I read a lot of romance, but not historical romance.
It's an intimidating genre, like, to get into in romance. I feel like it can be a little scary for people because you think it's like big words and things you're not gonna. It's not.
No.
Jen's like, no,
it's more. For me, it's more about. I always had an idea that it would be not to my taste because. One, I usually get annoyed when women are treated like second grade people.
Fair enough.
I get that.
I get very annoyed by that. And two, I always I was said in the last one, I don't like the heaving breasts and the, all that kind of Mills and Boon stuff. And I always saw historical romance as Mills and Boon. I don't know if you get Mills and Boon in the US.
I don't.
They get adapted to Harlequins.
Harlequins.
Yeah.
And so I didn't fancy it basically. So, but anyway,
now you're changed.
We'll get you. We'll find you the best.
We're gonna get you.
We know the good ones. Like,
well,
I mean, it's not like they're all winners like anything else. Like, I'm working through she used to be one of my favorite authors, Mary Ballow, whatever, however you say her name, and I'm finding them incredibly boring now. Just like 5 years on into my reading career, I'm like, oh gosh, her books, they don't even like piss until 80%. And I'm just like,
80, oh, that's too late. I can't do those craft pots.
Anyway, what were you going to say? Sorry. I'm an interrupter. You got to just push through because I'm sorry.
Basically, I was about to say that if we want to move on to the book, I gave this 5 stars.
Woo! We will in just a second.
Yay!
1 second. I'm going to announce this at the front of it so I don't forget. Sorry, I just took a bite when you said that. I'm a horrible person. Sorry. But the winner of the poll for next month's read is Izzy's going to be happy.
Oh, one of my favorites.
This one won by a lot. So this is the first one in the Uptown Girls.
I actually don't think I voted for it because I've read it.
I voted for Joanna Shoop, yeah.
Yeah, you don't have to reread it. So
I know.
If you want to. But yeah, I'm happy that it did because I've been wanting to, but I haven't felt motivated enough. So that's why I do the polls because it makes me. So.
No.
Oh, y'all are in for such a treat. Oh my gosh. Oh, they're so good.
That's awesome. Well, okay. Well, we will get on. So, Lynn, you can just go first. I said the question should be, I always send them ahead of time, but this one I feel like it's more of just we're talking about the aesthetics and the fun of it because it's not as intense of a story maybe as like the Beast of Bezek was, but it was still extremely enjoyable. So let's have you just say your star rating and then like just a couple things why, because we'll go through the hero, heroine, and all that parts of it like we did last time. So we'll just go in the same order. Go ahead.
So yeah, 5 stars. Thoroughly enjoyed it. It was so bloody funny. I was laughing out loud so many times. I don't know if you like my favorite scene, which we won't discuss yet, but the wedding scene. The wedding scene, I was just in stitches at the wedding scene. It was just so funny. The boys, all the men were just hilarious. So yeah, that's why I loved it.
The priest is so funny.
Yeah.
This guy is stinking. I gotta go. I loved it so much. Great. All right, Laura.
It sounds like I'm kind of in a minority here. I just thought it was pretty meh. Like I was like 3 stars. I don't know. I found the writing to be kind of twee. I mean, twee is a little harsh potentially, but like it was just really, it was enjoyable. But it was just kind of like la 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 la. And I was like, I wanted a little more tension. I just wanted like a smidgen more. I do agree with you, Lynn, that the wedding scene was funny. But I felt like there was too many of those scenes where we were like bumbling men, oh ho ho, and I was just kind of like, all right, like let's get going here. But I mean, I enjoyed it. I just wanted it to be a little more. Every time there was any tension, it got resolved too quickly. So I was never like wanting to read.
Sure. That's fair. I feel like it was almost told in that where like each chapter has a problem that gets solved kind of. So yeah. And I love I like that we have altering opinions in some place. I mean, gosh, always, but I'm totally get that. All right.
I mean, it might have been for me as well. A contributing factor for me was that I had just finished The Vanishing Half, which was quite an intense read. And I'm also in the middle of The Nickel Boys, which is a very intense read. And so picking this up was just, it was so lovely.
So light. Yeah.
So.
And I would say, like,
I enjoyed that it was so light, but also I don't know. Yesterday I was like, I have to finish this. And I picked it up and I was like, oh, I'm at like 65%. And it was just, I wish I was a smidgen further along. I don't know. I enjoyed it, but it was like too light almost.
Okay.
Izzy?
So Julie Garwood apparently is like a darling of Romancelandia in general, I found out, because I saw some other people I know were like reading their first Julie Garwoods in the last week. So I was really excited to pick this up and dive in. And it was just kind of that warm, cozy hug that I needed right now. I just did a reading vlog for 24 hours where I read some really interesting books. And one that, like, I think Jenn and Tamika both would be like, don't read this book. So, you know, so reading this right after that was like, this is delightful. I love it. I gave it a 5-star. I listened to the audiobook though. So I don't know if that helped. Sometimes for me, I find the overly like cutesy stuff on audio, I always enjoy it more because I'm just puttering around the house or doing whatever. And I've got my audio on, you know, like you're not sitting there reading it. Like this is, like, I don't know, audio moves quicker sometimes in those departments for me. Yeah, I loved it. It was so cute. And I just want to go read her whole backlist.
Yeah. I have a lot
Did they do the accents?
Yes. Yeah, they did. They had slight Scottish accents. It was fun.
Scottish historicals on audio, Laura, will change the historical game for you. I'll just say this. Kerrigan Byrne, while there still is Audible Escape, I don't know if you have it, you can listen to the entire Victorian Rebel series, and it is also Jennifer Ashley's entire library is on there too. So those are all Scottish heroes in all of them, and they're amazing. So I would agree, historical romance on audio, especially Scottish, is gonna be a winner for me. Anyway.
Okay.
I hear the Scottish accent all the time. So.
Yeah, no, we're not.
It's more entertaining for us, okay?
There aren't men in my normal life who sound like that.
We can easily be kidnapped when we travel over there. It's fine. So we just be talking to us and we're like, oh, la, la. It's like, oh no, I got in a strange vehicle.
All right. Well, no surprise from me. It was a 5-star for me. I have kind of like the same feeling as you, Izzy, where like I wasn't listening to it, but I did read this all in one sitting on the way back from Montana. So I was in Montana 2 weekends ago now. And as I had like shared with a few things, I was just like mentally and like I've been reading too much dark stuff in a row, which I love all of it, but it was too much compounded on top of each other where I was just, like, I literally felt like I had a heavy cloud. And so on the way back, I had on my Kindle still all these like mafia books stacked up, and I had our like incest books to read. And I was like, you know what? I also brought The Secret with, so let's just read this. And so for 3 hours on that 7-hour trip home, I dived into this, and I feel like in the way, Laura, of what you said, where I think if I had taken breaks during it, I wouldn't have been as engaged, and I can see how it wouldn't have sucked me back to it. There are a few historicals I feel that way, where like if I don't read them in one sitting, I might be like, oh yeah, I need to go back to that and not feel pulled into it. But because I read this more or less in one sitting, I was just like enchanted. I was like, oh, this is so cute. And we'll get into some of the reasons why, but mostly for me, what I was saying before we like went live about there's a certain style that's really whimsical to me, and it specifically is that part where like all of some characters are in on a thing that everyone else isn't, which is like the wedding, where everyone else knows that she's going into the wedding but her, and so everyone's just, oh, we're going to this, and she's like, what the hell is going on, until it like drops in front of her. And I have like the bride as well, and so I just really like that kind of where the heroine, she's still a very strong, great character, but you get swept up into something where it's just like, do I get a say? And it's like, you do get a say, but I really want you to say yes. So I've made it so you need to, even though you say. That's something I really appreciated, because in The Bride, there isn't really a choice. It's like the king has ordered something, right? Whereas in this one, he had set it all up, but he takes her aside and he's like, you get to say yes to this. I just really, really want you to please say yes. And I like that. So anyway, sorry, I went on my
One of my frustrations at the start was that there was very strong setup of the women are here and the men are here, and like the council completely ignored the women. The council only focuses on men. And I was like, no actual, even especially a small community like this, would ever have this really happening. Like the husbands would definitely like want to just get stuff figured out for their wives, just to like have the wives off their back. And so I was very frustrated. Obviously, this is one of the themes of the book, is that the women are sort of feeling like outsiders, that the women and men have separate roles, and that to some extent how the resolution happens at the end, where the councils now take women's, opinions and advice into issues into hand, like that resolves it. But at the start, I was just like, what the heck? And I just felt like Judith was like, you guys do things really backwards here. And I was like, amen, like why do none of the council listen to the women? And so I think that if I had like sat down and read it all in one sitting, like you had just said, like that might not have hung on to me, been like, let's get this resolved. Like it was annoying to me that every time the women were like, yes, husband, let's follow this chain of command. And I wanted to see the women have more agency.
Izzy, did you read it in one sitting?
No, not almost. I went to sleep.
I almost did. I only started late last night, read about 50%, and then woke up this morning and finished it again.
Yeah, so I started it Friday, and I read like a bunch of dark books, and then started this. So I was immediately like, oh yes, thank you. Save me. Yeah. Save me with Scotland right now. I need this out of my brain. And I finished it early Saturday. Like I think I read over 50% in one go. See, I can see like that part, but I think I expect the division of not labor, but like that sort of situations in historicals more. And then I always love when it's about the character like fighting that,
especially medieval.
Especially medieval. Yeah. But yeah, I always love watching like a female character, like our heroine, fight back against that labor division. Yeah. I don't know what else to call it. Versus like, I don't know, just kind of rolling over and taking it. Yeah, like they're fighting those gender roles.
Because of the setting and it being in like
1100,
I actually believed that it could quite easily have been like that. I really did. So
but that's just something to get used to going into historicals. Like I didn't start with medieval when I started with historicals. I started with Regency, where women still don't have power, but they do more. So you know, like
and I think a lot of the modern Regency books, like when I think of Sarah McLean, and I know Joanna Shoup writes Gilded Age New York now more, but she also has Regency books. Like these more modern authors are pushing the feminist like thoughts and ideas more in their Regencies than like when you pick up a book from 1980.
Yeah. And it was more like they're more, so that's more what books like this are, is it's maybe a medieval book where you have one special laird who realizes how great his wife is and makes changes for her. That's what happens in The Bride as well. And so I can see why those are harder to read now than they would have been in the 80s and 90s when they came out.
Yeah.
Well, I wondered if that was a product of this book being published in 1992, I think, because the only other historicals I have read are ones you guys are mentioning, Sarah McLean's, you know, more Regency and more recently published. And so there is more of a feminist lean, but I just felt like, and at one point, like one of the female characters, I think it was Isabel maybe, turns to someone and is like, I've never had a female friend. And I'm just like, what the heck? Like women have always had friends, and like women and men have always had like like maybe he has the power, who can go to council, whatever. But like women, sort of like Patrick is like, I would do anything for my bride, or you know, for Frances Catherine.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I just felt like there's definitely always been throughout history women and men having power privately together, and that sort of lingers out into the more like public sphere. And so I just was like, why do none of the women have friendships with each other? Like, why does I felt like there was a little bit of interpersonal stuff that I was like, can we tweak this a little bit?
Yeah. We're going to get to this. That's a great transition because the friendship is a big part I want to talk about. So thank you. So one thing I want to start, so we're going to talk about the plot and the secret, and then we'll go and talk about the hero and the heroine and stuff like that. One of the things I want to bring out is the first line of this book, which is, they became friends before they were old enough to understand they were supposed to hate each other.
Yeah.
Let me just sit with that. What a wonderful first line for the book. And really sets up what the entire book is about, and how this all comes about is because of a strong friendship, a sister before mister type of attitude in the 1100s from a Scottish girl and an English girl. And I just loved it. So I was hooked in the prologue, right? And so the setup of this story is, you know, when Catherine, what's her name?
Judith.
Frances Catherine is worried she's going to die in childbirth. And so they make this promise at kids that Judith will be there for her when she has her baby. And now the time has come, but they live even further apart than they ever did. And Patrick can't leave his wife in case she has her baby early. And so he sends his older brother, Ian, who is the laird as well as being his older brother. And he's going to go pick up Judith Elizabeth, right? Judith. I won't say both of her names because we don't want to do it either. And they're all sure that she's not going to come. So we're sending our four of our best men are going to go get this English girl, and she's probably going to say no. And they don't even like give her, I just love where they're like, we're just waiting for you to say no so we can go back. Like
just tell us no so we can do things.
Yeah, just say no so that we can tell her that you said no and we can go back. And she's just like, are you kidding me? Like, what? Who do you think I am?
Here's my horse. I'm packed. Let's go.
Yeah. Well, you can't ride your own horse. Just so many things that come with it. But I just love the setup of this, that this friendship will, you know, go between countries, go over time, go against traditions. She's not even a midwife. The fact that she studies midwife and like talks to midwives for how many years ahead of time. Yeah. I was like, this is the bestest friend. Like, I want to be this friend. It's like a friend who becomes a doula for you so she can help you, even though it's like nobody wants to be up in your best friend's lady bits, but like, I'm going to do it for you. I was just immediately in love with this friendship before we ever get to see them really on page together as adults. I was in love with them already. So I want to hear kind of how you guys felt about the friendships. And then to piggyback off of it, how Judith encourages friendships between the women at the new place that she goes. Whoever wants that.
Who's going first?
Go for
it. Well, I mean, I don't have a huge amount to add, actually, to tell the truth. I thought the friendship was brilliant. I mean, they were adorable when they were talking about them when they were kids. They were just adorable. They were just, and her father as well. I really, really wanted to see her father, Frances Catherine. Is it Frances Catherine? Yeah. Father in the story more. I really liked him, but it probably was another reason why I liked it so much, because despite it being in the medieval times and women were definitely second grade in that time, they were. She wrote it so it didn't feel that way as such, and even the men, even though they had these strange ideas, they still respected them, and it was just the relationship was the friendship, should I say, were definitely, in both female and male, were really really good. really good.
Yeah. Yeah. I love the inside joke too, that like where you get pregnant by drinking their spit.
Yeah.
And when she saw her for the first time,
you drank the cup. You weren't supposed to do that. Cute. It's so cute. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree with a lot of what you guys have all said. I think the friendship was like portrayed really adorably at the start, and then to see how the two of them, when they reconnect, they just fall right back into it. They have the inside jokes. It's as if, you know, no time has passed, and I thought that connection was really great. And we see multiple scenes throughout the book where both Frances, Catherine, and Judith are together and they're hanging out and it's a grand old time. They're joking, they're brushing each other's hair. And I loved all of those scenes. And so I felt like that was really well portrayed, and not just like they were best friends. See, there's a prologue, the end. You know, I like that we kept getting that throughout the book.
Right. Another line I just want to bring up quick too, of like getting to see their like loyalty to each other. This one is on page 66. When they're on their way, they have her and they're bringing her back. And they're at, I think it's Broderick or Ian, I don't know who, asks her what her like biggest flaw is. And she's like, well, I'm very possessive. And Frances Catherine is well aware of my many imperfections. And in fact, she's counting on them. And Broderick says, why? And she's like, because she thinks she's going to die. And I'm too stubborn to let her. And I'm just like, the fact that you're like in a fight against nature for your best friend, when like, let's be honest, if something goes wrong, you can't really help in 1100, whatever. And there's just such a like, I felt the fear so real from Frances Catherine of just like, she's the third generation of like women who died in childbirth. And so I can only imagine the fear of like thinking that she's going to die. And like, if she will, let's say she were to, she still wants to see her best friend if that were to go wrong, right? Mm-hmm. Oh, it was just so powerful. Lynn, what am I going to say? I cried a lot.
I just love friendship in books. Like, I love good friendships in books, period. Because I think, like, we don't get enough examples of good friendship. I feel like everything's, like, Mean Girls and, you know, like, it's always that stuff. And, like, it's just nice to read stuff where it's like, they weren't supposed to be friends as kids, but here they are, like, super good friends. And it's just, I loved the friendships, like, all around.
And I loved in this book how she fought against a lot of those tropes. Like, there was still, like, Agnes, who was kind of crazy. But the other women who we thought would be against her, she actively goes about trying to be friends with them. Like, the lady whose son throws a rock at her. Yep. She gets her a job so that her son can have good influences, because she knows, she's like, he needs good male influences. He doesn't have one. And so I'm going to bring you into my family, basically, you know, bring you into my home so you can have the old men who she keeps around as examples, as well as her husband to be the example. Yeah. And so really, instead of in some historicals where there always has to be like the catty bitch who liked your husband first or whatever. Well, it was really Agnes who was trying to make that happen. It wasn't so much the woman herself who was pushing to take.
Yeah.
It, right?
I think it showed like Judith has this level of like caretaking to her as a personality trait. Like, she is someone who is a caretaker and she wants to care for people, whether they're her people or not, you know, since she's English, and being viewed as like not her people or not as like the same, even though they are. Like, I just think that's such a valuable thing to read about.
Yeah.
And that we need more female friendships, period, in books.
Yeah. I just wasn't expecting it.
I wasn't either.
And I loved it because in the Bride, there's some female friendships worked on too, but there is like a woman who's the evil lady too, you know, which is fair. Like, women can be the bad one just as much as men can. I am equal opportunity villain. I just don't like when it's always just a woman who like wanted your man, and so they're evil. That's where I'm like, okay, can it be a different reason why?
Yeah, there needs to be more to it for me than just like, oh, you took him from me.
Right. When there was no promise. Like, it's way okay, were you engaged to him and it was gonna happen and I got in the way? No, you wanted to be. It wasn't a thing. You know? So anyway, well, we kind of just talked about Judith.
I would have liked.
Oh, go ahead. No, before I move on, go.
I was gonna say, I like sort of piggybacking on the like bad guy who's a woman. I felt like Agnes was really portrayed as that opposite to Judith, and that she was this midwife who was like, I do things a certain way, and I do things, I'm the reigning midwife here, and like he was this new person who's come in and kind of like thinks she can do better than me, or thinks she can take over these birds that are my responsibility. I would have liked a little bit more resolution with Agnes, because other than one scene where Agnes just kind of like turns and never has anything more to do with Judith, I sort of wish I was like waiting for Judith to be like, well, Agnes, and it never happened.
Right.
Yeah, that was I would say that's probably my only criticism of the book, but it wasn't enough to detract from dropping a star, because I'm all about how I feel about a book rather than how it's done. That I did find a bit too much telling rather than showing, especially towards the end, like quite big info dumps about stuff that had happened, and we were just told it, we weren't shown it, like Agnes and how she was kicked out of the thing. It was like we were just told by another character what happened, and it really bugged me a bit. So
yeah. Well, let's talk about okay, well, now we've talked about Judith a bunch. Let's talk about the hero. Let's talk about Ian, and then we'll talk about what the secret is. But let's talk about Ian first and how we felt about him. I'll be honest, the star of this for me is Judith. Like, I feel like this is really Judith's book, but I feel like he's a very good compliment, and I like him more than I liked Alec from The Bride, because he wasn't as openly like rude to her. Like, I'll be honest, in The Bride, he's a big negger. Like, he negs her a lot.
Yeah.
Like, I'm never gonna love you. Like, he's joking, but it's also like you're saying it still. And in this one, I feel like Ian was just overwhelmed with a lot of the feelings he started having for her, and he's like, oh no, I have feelings, and I don't want anyone else to have her, but she's English, and this isn't going to be good. Like, I feel like he's more overwhelmed by his feelings, but I feel like he in general is like pretty kind to her and like is looking out for her once he meets her. That's how I felt about it. And he has a great bro gang too. I like the respect between the brothers. Like, when, like, I know Broderick, his book is in Ransom, and I like how he even like hated, like he thought he would hate her even more, but then he's like, well, if you don't want her, like, I kind of want her.
I thought that was funny.
Like a few times too, because Ian is like, no, I can't have her, but stay away from her. She's fine. I don't know. I love that stuff.
I mean, that's how I got my husband to commit. I said, so if we're not serious, I guess I can go on other dates. And one of his friends was going to ask me out. And he was like, not happening.
It's your true feelings.
So I think it always cracks me up in books, because I'm like, I've been through that.
I've done it.
I liked him. I thought he was a fun character. Sorry to just totally jump in. But yeah, I thought he was fun overall as a hero. So it's my brother's name. So I always struggle to read books with my brother's name, but this was okay. Like, I couldn't get through the Jennifer Ashley book with my brother's name. No, it's my brother's name though. Like, it's so hard.
Your brother's nothing like Ian Mackenzie.
I don't know. I never finished the book.
That's
so yeah, I like it sucks. Sometimes I'm like, I can't read this. But this one, it worked for some reason. I don't know. I was able to get through it. He was fun. Like, he was fine. Like, I didn't think he was like, I mean, he was no like Sarah McLean heroine that I fall in love with. Like, there are higher ones on my list, but he's like in the top 20 maybe, of just like kind of being a fun bumbling idiot of a man.
Yeah, I really appreciated a lot of the mutual affection moments. Like, there isn't a single moment of like dubious consent in this book at all.
That's exactly what I was about to bring up.
Which, like, I will skirt past the graveyard with that in historicals because I do like a He-Man alpha who steps over boundaries, so I fully admit that. But I understand why it's not acceptable to other people. And in this one, I was like, it was always like mutual all the way through, even from the first kiss where she's like sitting on his horse, and all of a sudden they're kissing, and he's just like, oh snap, this is not good. I mean, anyway.
Yeah, and I was a fan of Ian. He's definitely, he's not what I call a book boyfriend, as in like I didn't totally fall in love with him. However, I really appreciated him because of what you've just brought up. There was always consent, even if he had some very, like, obviously outdated ideas about a woman's place and she should follow everything that he says and everything, but he still did it with consent, and I love that about him. And he was just also a lot of fun.
He backed her up consistently whenever she wanted to make changes. He was like, well, what's going on? Oh, it was Judith's idea? Okay. Like, he never, there was never really those like confronting things. And when she would bring things up, like the old men staying there, she's like, but how are they going to be fed and taken care of if you're kicking them out of their home? Like, they can stay here. And I really like that about him, that he would correct his behavior pretty easily. Like,
and he would also be like, oh, you're right, you notice all these things I don't notice, and like appreciated that. And that's just like, I love that.
I loved it.
Ian was really logical, and so I really enjoyed that part. Like, when he had like Laird's duties, the men were like mer mer mer, and he was like, that makes sense, let's get going. And every time Judith said something, he was like, I don't understand. And then all she had to be was like, it hurt my feelings, and he'd be like, I understand. And so it was like he was very willing to back her up. And when she's like, remember what you said, da 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 da, and he said, you're right, okay. And so I think that he just wanted a reason to do the thing, and then he was totally happy doing the thing, and it was like, that was really great for me.
I appreciate a hero that's not going to sit here and like drag his feet and not listen. I don't know, I just, it's enjoyable.
Let's talk about the wedding then, because it was adorable. The entire chapter, chapter 9, when she gets told she needs to come to a meeting there, she thinks she's going to be in a lot of trouble, and he they're literally voting in front of her, like, what's going to happen? And then like she's seeing everything going on, and she's like, Ian, what's happening? And he's like, I'm keeping you. Just the best line, like, but from him,
so good.
Sweet. Like, it wasn't like a like captive thing. He's like, I'm keeping you. Like, what else could I do? I can't let you. I love you. You know, like, he hasn't said I love you yet, but it ticks all my happy boxes. And then when she said, she's like, you can't just keep me, and they're all like, yes, you can. But then he takes her aside and is like, if you really don't want to, like, it's okay. But, like, I want to marry you right now. So I love that. Even when everyone else is like, he can do whatever he wants, he's the Laird, he still asks her, like, yes, surprise, but do you want to? And I love that.
I did too. Look, I'm just saying, if I had to get married again, if you just spring the wedding on me, if we're serious, I'm real happy. I hate wedding stuff. It's so annoying. I was just like, this is great. This is the dream. Just roll up and be done
with him. When she's like, okay, but I want this, and this. Like, and he just hands over the keys to the kingdom. He's just like, I'm gonna do all the promises. And then even in their, like, he reminds her of it. Like, it's either in their bedroom that night or the next day. He's like, you got a lot of promises out of me, and I will fulfill them all. I gave you my oath. Like, I will. And sorry,
for me, it was the humor of that scene. I just was laughing so much during that scene. It was hilarious. That's why it's my favorite scene.
I love it. Okay, so we love Ian. Let's talk about what the secret is. So, someone want to explain it?
She is the daughter of a rival clan just across the way from them, basically.
They're about to go to war with.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I appreciated this, like, what's it called in romance? The like bleak moment where it's like, oh, this thing has happened that's going to supposedly drive us apart. I really appreciated that moment was not him finding out who she was, but that moment was her thinking that he married her only for alliance reasons, not because he actually loved her. And so I saw it coming from a million. Yeah, I saw it coming from a million miles away. That I was like, oh, he's gonna find out that like who she is, and that's going to be like the problem. And then when it's revealed before he realizes it at the cemetery. So I was like, I guess this isn't going to be the problem. But I really appreciated that the bleak moment was then that they had to kind of like work through this emotional like discordance where she was like, so you didn't love me, you were just using me, and he was like, no, you dummy. Like, okay.
Like he knew for a while.
Yes, like he knew before. Yeah, he knew before he married her, and like I like that. Like that's what this ring is about. And he's like, I recognize it. Like, where is it from? And once he figures it out, he's like, oh crap, I need to lock this girl down because A, I love her, and B, if anyone finds out before, they'll never let me marry her. Mm-hmm. But he's willing to give up. Like, once they find out who she is, he's like, we're packing up and leaving. Like, we're going if they won't accept you. Like, I picked you, and you're first over everyone else. And, it's just never a question if he's like going to leave her, she's going to leave him. Even though she thinks that that's the question.
Yeah,
it
didn't feel like... Yeah. It was one of those bleak moments where you didn't feel like... It wasn't like a gut punch. You were like, oh, no. It was just like, oh, she's about to realize he's very serious about her and like... Yeah. Is never leaving her.
Yeah, I've just seen the comment from Katya in there. She's talking about the wedding bit, and she said that she likes when her friend said, did you get married to Ian? And she's like, I think so. Yes.
It kind of reminds me, except in the opposite way, of like The Princess Bride, where he's like, this old man said man and wife, I guess we're married. And except it's like for a good thing. Sorry, I'm messing with my lights because it decided to be cloudy. And that makes me angry. So I'm sorry. There we go. So yeah, I love that. I loved, I actually thought The Secret, even though it's something we like know the whole time, it was a worthy secret, right? That is worthy of, not only is she already an outsider because she's English, half English, with full English. The only thing worse than her being English, which everyone was able to accept, is that she be half Scottish and a McLean.
Right.
So this also made me happy. So my grandmother is McLean. So I got a little excited too.
What I also liked about the book was that there was actually plenty of conflict in the book. And not just about The Secret, but about other stuff. But it wasn't made into this big, massive drama. They actually communicated and talked about it. And yes, there was some drama, but things got resolved without this going like 5 months without speaking to each other. And, that I really, really appreciated that.
Yeah, I so agree with you. And that's something I loved about The Bride and about this one. Is that the couple, we're not worried about the couple. Well, she's worried about it. We as the readers, we know Ian knows, and so we know this isn't a big deal. And so it's good because she has a conflict, but more the conflict is what is his clan going to do when they find out? Because that's a valid concern that they might go to war over her. But I was never worried that the hero is going to be like, oh, you're too much work, I'm ditching you or something, right? Let's kind of talk about her dad and the mom a little bit, because the mom is an interesting, this is the kind of like quote unquote like villainess in a story. She's not in this actively, but she is like caused a lot of problems for Judith's life by being the crazy bitch that she is.
Yeah.
What do you think about her mom?
I hated her mom.
So her mom, her mom was, I was sort of surprised at the level of dislike that I had for the mom without her ever actually being on page. Like she's never like 100%, anytime she ever even has anything to say, it's Judith's like remembrance of something. Mm-hmm. And so, or her father's like remembrance of something. And yet we really get a very clear picture that she was like a terrible mom, you know, a terrible, like kind of a bad wife, you know, like there was a lot of inadequacies there, just like all the way across. And, you know, I think one of the earliest things you learn is that she married the Laird McLean like for spite. And I think that just sets up the rest of her character.
This is one of the bits that I thought that I was talking about where we got told a lot rather than showed a lot. And I was a bit unfulfilled by the mother part of it, actually. Especially, did we ever get to the bottom of why she ran off and left?
Well, she just got sick of living there because she was from a pretty like wealthy family, right? And she ended up going to the king's court and being like a courtesan instead. Like she just got sick of it, you know. Like,
but I don't think that was very clear.
Sure,
I agree.
You know?
Yeah, it wasn't super clear. I agree with you. I think her mom was like a good villain, a good setup to like be the foil to when she meets her dad, who's like really mad because he didn't know about her and he feels awful for not coming to get her.
Yeah.
I don't know. I appreciated that. I mean, I don't love like an evil mom either in a book necessarily, but this one, like it worked for some reason. I don't know.
But it's the but she just brought that up. It's actually the uncle for me that I was like, I really don't like you.
Yes, the uncle was super like, nope.
Oh yeah.
I got very creepy vibes from him. It was just
Well, I love that when the last thing she asked him is like, please don't ever, like before they get married, she's like, please don't ever drink in front of me.
Yeah.
And then, well, I've shared this with you guys, like that always gets me because it's come from that like abusive, like guardian. And then she's marrying this guy that she doesn't really know that well yet. And then like that he said, he's like, you know what, when I was young once, I was like went on a bender and like didn't remember anything, and I decided that as a lord, I always have to have a clear head, so I always like pretend to drink. I really like that was really subtle, that when she like flinches away and like Frances Catherine is like, yeah, that's why she asked you that, because she gets beat by her uncle. Just so many good layers.
There's also, I mean, I've only read one of her books, but this was full of like really solid one-liners and ideas, you know, like you just mentioned about the whispering in his ear and talking about the drink, and also there was just some really, really good solid lines in there that I really appreciated.
Yeah, I really liked a favorite scene I want to talk about is when he finally admits that he loves her, which like we know that he does, but he's like trying to hold his manliness a little bit because he's thought that his brother is like, you know, pussy whipped basically for all the things he tries to do for him. And so when he's saying, he's like, well, you know, I'm still the man, like you're not gonna like make me change. And you know, he's listening, she's like, no, what are you talking about? Have I asked you to do that at all? And he's like, okay, well, Patrick told me that he walked through fire for his wife, and I understand what he meant now. And that's him saying he loves her, and I'm just like, oh,
But actually, even when he's the time that when he actually does say I love you was actually a really good way of doing it, because he just did it so casually. He didn't, you know.
It was very
I liked that moment.
Oh, sorry.
Laura,
sorry. I like that the moment where he talks about how he like kind of eventually has realized and reveals his feelings to Judith, that he says he would walk through the fires of purgatory for her. I like that happened where it did in the book. It was actually before the bleak moment. And so we actually had a lot of time for Judith to like bask in the glow of happiness. I feel like frequently the woman or the female, it's usually the female character is like, well, does he or doesn't he? I've, realized and admitted that I love him. And then she has to spend like the rest of the book before he finally is like climax at the very last minute. And he's like, well, don't you realize I loved you? And it's like the last 3 pages. And so she like ends the book in bliss. And I really enjoyed that Judith had time to be like, we're going to figure things out. That sort of helped solidify their relationship together, as she was like, I know he loves me. And he just basically admitted it. And so they have time together to like continue to solidify that relationship.
We need to read it, Heather.
Heather, you need to read this book. It's great. Can't recommend it enough.
I somehow didn't know what the secret was, even though I knew stuff about it before. Anyway, yeah, I really like. Oh, I just like so much. Let me look at my notes again. Sorry, because I know I wrote down some stuff that I'll probably forget.
What did anybody think about the like birthing elements, or what the church had to do with the women, and like the churches that like they have to suffer so much, or that like you have to immediately bury the afterbirth, and some of those like traditions at the time around. Yeah,
never felt so relieved to never want children. While reading this, I was just like, yeah, I'm so glad I'm not having kids, because nope, I'm good.
Yeah,
good. I'm not physically having them. I'm like, I'm good.
I wasn't expecting that to be like such a big part of it, that she would get swept up into being the nursemaid. When I heard like what the conflict of this was going to be, I really thought that Judith would just be like helping Frances Catherine and like be trying to hold Agnes back. Like I thought that to me, that's how this was going to play out, is that Judith was going to be her like guard in front of her and be like, stay away, crazy lady. You're not touching her. But I liked that it was someone else who needed her first. And that every time she helped, she would like throw up and then need to go sleep it off, because she would have to be so strong. It was almost like she was taking on as much pain for, like, she was becoming like a familiar almost, like starting it all like, October.
Yes, she was. Like, I agree with you. I think,
she was being a strong person. So that woman had like, and that Isabel had like squeezed her so tight. Mm-hmm. And then that was her proof to the priest that like, don't you think she was suffering enough? Look what she did. And then, but then she's like, okay, so if I didn't have bruises, would you have punished her? Like, what are you saying, And even the priest was like, yeah, I don't get this crazy about it. I don't know what
I think there's a big allegory there for like the representation of women and what childbirth has to be valued. Like now it's, you're not good enough if you have a cesarean or what, like there's that whole thing that like, and it's so dumb. Like I feel like it's kind of a weird parallel to that in this book almost. You didn't scream enough, so obviously you birthed something that's not a human child. And it's just like, it's so awful, because if anything, childbirth is a terrifying experience that, I mean, gets you something amazing, don't get me wrong, but I don't think anyone that's been through it would tell you otherwise, that it's not like even slightly traumatic, at least.
Even Queen Victoria had to fight against the church when she started using gas with her last like 2 kids. Mm-hmm. She was able to use because she hated childbirth. Who loves it? Don't know who actually loves it, but
they're all lying to you.
Right. She hated being pregnant so much, and this poor woman was pregnant for almost 20 years straight, basically. And like the church was like, oh, well, you're our example of like the perfect mother. You can't have any help. And even that was like in, like, oh, geez, like 1880s or whatever.
Well, then the one king made like the birthing on your back a thing because he liked to watch. So
I like that I don't know. I just like that. I like that Judith was scared and was like, no. I do
like that she was very much trying to like help people through it in a less painful way. as much less pain as you can have to do that, because obviously there's just no avoiding it.
Yeah. And I just didn't like about, like I thought it was an interesting thing to say about like Agnes too, where she like wanted them to suffer more as well. Like, it was just such a weird thing for the, like, I thought it would have been, okay, not acceptable, but I would have understood if it was like just the priest coming to her and being like, hey, this is what our beliefs say. But the fact that another midwife who, either because she's jealous or thinks that she's doing it the wrong way or whatever, would actually go tattle on her and bring the priest along, where the priest is like, what are you doing? You know, the priest is almost like, I'm here, but what are you talking about? You didn't hear her scream loud enough. Like, we just need proof or something. Like, I'm just like, where are we going with this?
I think that section was a little weird for me. I mean, not to the part about the priest, because like, who knows what the church has to say about birds at the time. But so I didn't have a problem with that part. I felt like this was supposed to be, Judith was like realizing that Agnes was saying this and to have control over these expectant mothers and to sort of have a power play over these expectant mothers and people who, you know, were not pregnant now, but like, you know, might become pregnant, that like Judith was using her position and knowledge to be like, oh, I have heirs or I have power over these people. And to me, that was like not as well shown as it could have been, but also really kind of scarily understandable at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like, you're encroaching on my territory. Like, one of the ways that I look at it, if I was being, you know, favorable towards Agnes or trying to see it from that, is that because the women have like so little power within this and nobody listens to their pleas, Agnes is like kind of in a position of power, sort of,
right,
where like, she's the one people go to for this, and like she has the ear of the priest, right? She has the ear of the council, right, because she's giving birth their kids, so she doesn't want to lose any traction she might have for a woman who, I don't believe she has a husband or anything, because she's that lady's aunt. So that's the only way she has a voice. And so she's doing whatever she can to like hold on to it. If I'm being favorable to her, that's what I would like say. I can see it from that point of view. But,
and I think in other books, someone who's like
power.
All about power.
Go on, Laura.
I was just going to say, I think in other books I've read or in this time in history, like someone who functions as a midwife or as a doctor to somebody, they are respected in the community, and also they like benefit, like here's a chicken, or here's like my respect, or like that, you know. I think that there might be other layers that weren't discussed in this book that Agnes was benefiting from.
That's true too.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about the romance in this before we get to wrap up, because it was very sweet. Not PG, I'd say it's PG-13-ish, not too crazy or
too dirty.
But it was very romantic, is what I would say. I felt the romance was from how their first kisses happened to how he would keep finding time to spend with her, even though he has duties. And she'd be like, why are you always here? Like, why do you keep showing up all the time? And we're like, everyone else is like, yeah, that's because he likes you. And she's just like, will you stop? I'm not going to do anything bad. Like, that's what I feel like she thinks is happening, is she's being watched by him. Whereas he's just like, I'm just drawn to you. Like, I want to be around you all the time. And I thought their love scenes were really sweet. I was looking at the one where he tells her he loves her when there's supposed to be a council meeting. And he's like, we're going to go have our own meeting. And she's like, but you need to be at this. And he's like, no, I don't. I'm going to explain some things to you. Let's go. And I just was like, I love that stuff.
Yeah. I think that they were very tender.
Yes,
I agree. They're just very sweet, very fun. Like, I love a hero who seems kind of like not here for it, but is also like super soft for the heroine. And I feel like Ian was kind of that. He was just kind of like, I'm here to do all this other shit and like taking care of all that. But then when it came to her, he was very like soft.
But there was also really good banter.
Yes.
Seriously, really good banter. I'm always a sucker for good banter, and that's probably why I loved it so much. Just so much good banter.
Well, I always love a heroine who uses her words to talk her way around things. Like, so how she would convince the council of things, how she would talk to the old men about things. You know, because that's the only like power that she has at all is her words. Like when you're going up against well, not even up against, but trying to like convince people or like show your worth. Like she was just so smart. And they could tell that about her. Like nobody ever thinks she's silly from the first time they meet her and interact with her. There's no like, you have to prove yourself. She just is like, this is me. This is what I'm doing. This is my will and my character. And I'm going to do this. And each person she came across, she had compassion for them, but she didn't let them get away with stuff. Like the little boy who threw a rock at her, or the women who were jealous of her. She was compassionate to each of them, but yet she wouldn't be pushed around. Like she wasn't to like, you know, walk all over me.
I mean, she really showed that you don't have to, you can show compassion to people who don't like you or that maybe have not been the best to you. And I'm not saying to let people walk all over you either, but like I feel like she showed that line of like basically playing nice with people who maybe don't want to play nice back.
Yeah. Well, she was respectful of traditions, but also let's improve it. Like I loved that, where she was like, the women deserve a day off, and it's like, well, none of them are going to take it because it's tradition. They don't. Well, let's throw a party for the kids, because if the kids go, the moms are going to go to watch their kids. And I was like, that's just like solving. It wasn't ordering them to take a break. She's like, if we order them to, then we're still treating people like they have to obey. I just was like, that's so cute. Like, who would have thought to do that? We're going to have festivals on Sunday or Saturdays now, so people take a day off. Like, it's so cute. I loved it. It was just very pleasant.
It was.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, it was very romantic, but I think it just all went with the full package. Like, this wasn't a book I would read just for the romance. This was the friendship, the story, and then the romance was just really beautiful. So I would say that about it. The friendship really shines through equally with the romance for me, because I really loved, like I said, I thought he was very romantic and the things he would do to make her happy. And then his hero moment where he does the whole, like, I took off all my armor, let me walk into the lion's den. Oh, I love that shit. I'm just like, give it to me. So I love it.
Oh dear.
Yeah. Have we talked about everybody's favorite scenes? Let me throw that out there. Anybody in the comments too. But if we haven't talked about one of your favorites.
We all had the wedding, didn't we?
It was for me.
Same for me.
I mean,
I'd say my favorite scene, I think, was actually her confronting her father and kind of like how she manages to kind of like step forward, declare things, and then even though it was probably like the most emotionally tumultuous scene of the for Judith of the whole book, but I felt like she did well in that scene, and I liked kind of reading it and seeing how Ian was going to react, and how I didn't know how like Laird McLean or the brother was going to react. So I enjoyed that scene and them reacting well.
I'm trying to find it. I mean, I think for me, I thought the wedding was cute. Like, I always love a wedding, but my favorite scene is actually probably the birth of the baby, because just, you know, that she lives.
The twins?
Yes, and that they were twins. Yeah. So I kind of guessed that. I don't know if anyone else did.
I had a feeling.
I did.
Because there's that joke, like, you don't comment on how big the person is. But I was like, they're mentioning how big she is. I feel like the baby is going to be super big, and that's going to be the problem.
Yeah, there was definitely foreshadowing for that. Most definitely.
Trying to find it. But
the first time I think Judith is like, wow, Frances Catherine's really big. And I took that to be like a throwaway comment from a virgin about her best friend, you know, whatever, maybe nothing. But then just a few pages before the babies were born, like multiple people, like her husband's like, wow, you're like twice as big as so-and-so. And she's like, I ate twice as much. And I'm like, or they're twins.
I also think because, you know, once you know the full picture of how much research Judith did, I think that comment has more weight, because it's like, she's been looking into this. And so she's seeing some abnormalities in her friend, but you wouldn't like notice that the first time through. It was just once she has twins, I was like, oh, Yes, I see.
Yeah.
Katya's just mentioned one of my favorite scenes as well was when she wouldn't let the two elders leave the home. It was really, really lovely.
Yeah, I like that too. I feel like there's too many, but I think I'm going with the wedding still because I just love the idea of rolling up. They're just being done.
Yeah.
What magic?
Trying to find it. I don't know what chapter she has the babies in. Trying to find it. But anyway, I know I like that. I know. Is it after her dad? No, it's before her dad.
Yes.
Okay. I don't know. Anyway, how about the conclusion of everything then? How it worked out? Do you feel like it was satisfying? I know I feel like, yeah.
It wrapped up quickly.
Yeah. I think I would have liked to have seen her go to her dad's, actually. I would have liked to have seen that still part of the book.
Or them come visit. Like he would, that was one of the promises that her aunt and uncle could come see her before they got married. That would have been cool.
There would have been a nice, to have an epilogue where Judith reveals she's pregnant, where Frances Catherine is running after two twins and being like, twins. And then also Aunt Millicent and Uncle whoever have visited, and also her father and brother have visited. And everyone's on tenterhooks because it's these are our enemies, but then everyone's together in a family reunion. I think that would have been an adorable epilogue.
Yeah. I would have loved that as an epilogue, actually.
Yeah. That is 100% will agree. So many of these older books, none of them have epilogues. The epilogue is definitely a 2000s onward thing to happen. And I just think they all do it. I want to see the happy for now or the happily ever after. I need you to show me. And so many of these
just baby epilogues. So
I hate
kind of a blessing that there's no epilogues,
Yeah. When part of me wants exactly what I just described, but then when I actually read it in the book and it's just Bo, and baby and happy, I'm okay, we knew that was coming. We didn't need to read it.
Just no pleasing you, Laura.
I love an epilogue that doesn't do that and it's different. So at the same time,
what about when they skip all the way past the pregnancy part? What if it's 10 years later and the little ones are already running
Those
around?
are even more annoying.
Those are more annoying. I don't like kids in epilogues, period.
Well,
I like to see
with no birth control and consistent sex, most of the historical romances are going to have kids in that epilogue.
Well, I mean, I know, but it's kind of if you read a contemporary and they don't use protection and you're where's the secret baby?
Yeah.
Wow, Heather, you're out here throwing stones, huh?
But also,
see, Tamika's got my back.
Since when? I don't agree. I
don't hate them. I just am very particular.
I feel unsatisfied in the story when I don't have one, but
I think you can wrap up without one.
Yeah. I will say that the kind of very end of the book is Judith helping arrange to be the Laird has more power. He's not just an advisor. And yet they're also going to kind of vote on him, and they're going to be a council of elders. Basically, she kind of instituted a lot of governmental kind of yeah. And so I appreciated that. And I thought it was kind of an interesting, a weird thing to shove in at the end, but also pleasant to read.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It also, it takes a lot of the pressure off of him then too, so he doesn't have to be so consistently there all the time. But yeah, I mean, we'll kind of wrap up our final thoughts here. We're over an hour, but I mean, I have no conflicted feelings about my 5-star rating. I think it's a really solid story. I really appreciate it for everything that it gives me, even if I do feel like I'm at a grittier place now for what I want in my historical romances. This still had the conflict was really well laid. There wasn't a ton of misunderstandings to rest the entire plot on misunderstandings. She has a legit reason for keeping this secret. This isn't a secret of she used to be engaged to somebody else or, whatever. This is a secret
baby. Yeah.
Yeah.
At least Secret Baby has drama though, Yeah.
There's
some drama to it when there's this hidden child.
Yeah. No, I hate secret babies. That's just totally different. But yeah, I really liked this, and I'm glad you all read it, especially my like newer people to historical romance. You make me so happy over here. I'm really excited for us to read this. If you guys are interested in this one, if you're new to the live stream, my TBR will go up next Saturday, but I'll, if you were here, you get the free peek. If you need to get a copy of this.
What's it called again? Rogue of what?
The Rogue of Fifth Avenue.
Fifth Avenue, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's so good, guys. Oh my god, that whole series.
I have the whole trilogy, so it's time to crack it.
So good. I can't tell you how good it is. Like, it's just yep. I'm gonna reread it probably for this, so
I'm hyped. It's gonna be great. But yeah, I thank you all for joining me. You made me so happy. Thank you all of you who watched. Tamika, glad you got to catch the last couple minutes. I don't even know if you read this, Tamika. So thank you for jumping in. I've not read this one. But we will maybe see some of you or some newbies next week.
It's like, whoa.
Next week it's Taboo Book Club next Sunday. Very two polarizing books we read, very opposites that we read this month. So
I'm not reading them.
That's okay. Don't do it. Don't do it. Like Dragonflies was very good.
Don't do it because
I purposely picked that because I wanted to squeeze everybody out. So
I've still to read them yet, so we'll see. I don't usually get freaked out, so we'll see. But yeah.
Oh, you won't have a problem reading it. It's going to be great to talk about it. I'm very excited to talk about it. This month caused me a lot of drama in my family life, so it better be a good conversation.
I'll be in the comments. I'm just not going to read the books.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You can come up to the live show.
I'm going to be just button smashing into the chat the whole time. It's fine.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Like Dragonflies was very, very good. So, but anyway, well, thank you all for watching. You're the coolest. And we'll see you the next time we have one of these. You're the bestest. Bye.
Bye.